What to do, what to do. This is the Brother Actionable Steps and have fun in the process. Please reach out to us at brothersonbooks@gmail.com for any book recommendations, or if you would like to be a guest host for a particular book you have in mind. A great review or rating on whichever platform you're listening to would be greatly appreciated. Lastly, if you can think of any friend, family member, or coworker that might like this episode, please pass it along. I'm Alex Elwell, and with me, as always, is my brother Jack Elwell. Jack, how we doing today?
Pretty good, Al. It sounds like you're a little tired. I'm a little tired. I'm in Tokyo right now. It's late, still on East Coast time a little bit. But it's good. But I hit almost I'll say the matcha like quadruple today. I only got the triple, but I got a matcha latte, a matcha crepe, and then a matcha pudding in this beach town called Kamakura, which is a little bit south of Tokyo. So that was kind of fun. How's everything on your side?
That's almost a matcha overload there, Jackie boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason I'm tired is it's 6 in the morning here. So I'm mainly tired because it's early. But this is the time that worked for us with you being in Japan.
Mhm.
But yeah, everything's more or less good with me. I just got back from a pretty competitive tournament over the weekend, like an open mixed bracket, like close to, I think, like 24 teams. We won our pool, and unfortunately got knocked out in the quarter after we advanced out. But it happens pretty well. Good times. Get the cash money though, which is what I was going for. But
Okay.
Jack, what book are we doing today?
Today we are discussing Mark Douglas's Trading in the Zone. Master the market with confidence, discipline, and a winning attitude.
And Jack, how did you choose this book?
I chose this book because I started to, well, I had been trading options a good amount, but I started doing Forex and I started listening to a lot of different trading podcasts just for kicks to see what they were talking about. And Trading in the Zone kept coming up as the best book for trading psychology. And that seems to be a huge component because a lot of people, even if they have an edge in terms of executing the trades methodically, they have trouble. And sometimes they try to go revenge trading, which he talks about a little bit in the book. But I thought I'd never really read like a straight up like trading psychology book, so thought it would be a good pick. And I think trading mentality is one of the best mentalities out there in terms of short memory, kind of like baseball players, striking out and just having to forget. I'm sure you go through this too in pickleball. So I thought it would be a good book to read and help us get stronger mentally. So what were your thoughts, Al?
Yeah, I mean the whole so I didn't, I guess you're saying that and it's obvious now, but going into it, thought this was going to be more of like a technical analysis, like how you evaluate which trades you should make. But yeah, I mean the ink was on more or less the mentality that you need to have, uh, like the psychology of trading, not really the technical analysis. And I feel like that always comes up in investing, is that it's more about being mentally strong and like psychologically sound than really, I guess maybe the underlying ideas of uh of what you're actually deciding to trade or invest in.
Well, I think long-term trading, a lot of it is just
Uh,
understanding the biases. Because a lot of people try to like actively trade and they'd be better off just getting
sure,
out of
right,
the
okay.
way. But this is really for like, I mean, trading, like actively. managing funds and like
Day to day traders. Yeah.
not necessarily like day, but like people that actually have an edge. They've done their homework and they like he never mentions like the term back testing, but this would be like you would actually go back in time and like look at where different setups happen and where you actually like figure out you have an edge in some way. And then actually executing it over and over again. Um, I actually would wish he would have gone through because like I wish he would have gone through the back testing component a little more actually, but he kind of briefly mentions it like in the last chapter because I feel like I'm still trying to like do research into like getting an edge. I've kind of been in like a period where I'm just getting used to like executing the trades and making sure the risk management is in there from the get-go, but and that does take the emotions out because you just set it up at the beginning and he talks a lot about this like just knowing the beginning, middle, and end, knowing exactly how much money you have at risk and being okay with it, and then figuring out how to take your profit or at what point you would take profit. Um, but yeah, I liked a lot of the. I mean, it was really an all psychology book. I mean, it was really cool because he didn't even do any charts. There were zero charts in this whole book, zero numbers really.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess I actually must have missed, or I didn't, I guess, understand that. But now that you say it, it makes a lot more sense. But like, how do you, I guess, so you're talking about getting an edge. Like, how do you feel like you get that?
I mean, you would have to. I mean, there's he talks about like there's some. I mean, you can look at whatever indicator you want or certain like trend line or some sort of metric, and when you see that setup or that amount gets crossed or basically that's when you would want to enter the trade. And let's say like for example, I mean, just for like easy numbers, like um let's say like if like a penny's hit on a currency, like and if it's like going up, like let's say like 50% of the time, um, it's going to the next penny. Um, but maybe you're risking one to win three based on where it is, like between the pennies. I mean, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but kind of like it's kind of like how we were doing like our soccer bets. So like if you had something that's winning 50% of the time, like if you're getting paid more than 1 to 1, that's a good bet. And so same idea. But there, yeah, he's basically saying like, after doing your research and your homework, you find a setup that for one way or the other increases your probability of success and um, you're kind of weighing like what you're risking to what you're getting, and he's typically saying you want to look for at least a 3 to 1 risk to reward ratio. I don't know where he really gets that ratio, but I think he kind of explains he likes to roll out of his profit like bit by bit, and that's kind of that mentality of being a consistently winning trader where you're more often than not taking some sort of profit. Um, but I don't know. Well, what did you think was like the most I like your takeaways or like what you yeah.
I guess my takeaway was the concept of like anything can happen. Uh,
Mhm.
in the market, anything can happen. Like it is so like it's so unpredictable. Like it's I think he uses the oh, I can't remember the term, but it's like so unpredictable. It's like predictable, like or you could get consistent results from like inconsistent outcomes. And I think he tells, I guess, the two stories. He tells the one story where like the technical trader goes to the old floor trader to like prove how good his technical analysis is, and they're like talking about trading soybeans,
Mhm.
and he's like, all right, soybeans are supposed to they're supposed to drop for my technical analysis, soybeans are supposed to drop to like price X. And then when it gets to that price, like, okay, so soybeans are supposed to go up now. And the kid goes, yeah. And then the guy goes and makes a call and sells like 2 million bundles of soybeans and like collapses the soybean price.
Hmm.
All to prove a point. Anything can happen. And just because he can go make that trade, anyone else can go make that trade. And, you just have to be prepared for essentially anything. And then the other one, sort of like what you were talking about, and I think about this a lot too, just in life, where if you consistent, like sort of what you were just saying, you consistently have an edge in something, if your time horizon is like infinite, it doesn't matter the individual outcome of one event, but you will eventually be successful. And he talks about casinos in that terms, where in blackjack, I think he says the house is either a 4.5, a 5 inch,
Hmm.
where, even if you lose the house loses one big hand over the course of, it becomes a massive win. So I guess to me, what that was saying is, one, you can't predict something. You have to be okay thinking in probabilities and okay with any type of you know, unexpected event.
Hmm.
Uh, and
Yeah,
then
it's.
two,
Mhm.
and then two, and two, if you are confident you have some type of system that will work out more or less most of the time, you need to keep using it on have and then eventually time you'll be successful with it.
Mhm.
I mean, for me, like when he's saying that thing about the casino, like that's obvious. Like to me, the hard thing is like figuring out how do you get a 5% edge?
Yeah,
Which
exactly. You
is
gotta.
he's making it sound like,
For most people, that
right.
actually seems
I
to
feel
be
like,
the
and then the
easy
hard
part.
part is just, you think that's the easy part, getting the edge?
For a lot of people, that is because they spend more time looking at the charts. So they do the research and actually figure out the setup that they want to trade on, but they have problems actually executing the trades because they get too emotional and they don't expect an unexpected outcome. Like you can have the expectation of always winning over the long run, but for any given bet, a lot of people have problems just accepting the uncertainty. And then they either will like say you put the trade on and you want it to go up and it goes a little against you, and then you might get emotional and then maybe you like lower your take profit target or it goes a little bit more and then you just like no, like I'm just going to close it out. So it's like you're not really accepting the whole risk because he talks about it like in terms of like a restaurant, like buying food. Like you have to pay for food if you want to make more money. You have to, I have to go buy more land if I want to sell more land. And like you have to like want to lose money essentially. It sounds weird, but you have to want to lose some money because over the long run you're going to make more money if you have a true edge. Um, so
Well, I don't consider that like when you go and buy, I don't consider that you losing money,
but a lot of other like right. I mean,
right? Like
you
that's
shouldn't
an
consider it, but that's the way people look at trading. They're not really looking at it. It's just like the cost of business. People they get too emotional. Um, and I think he goes in quite a bit. Like people don't like to be wrong and they don't like to lose money. And then like trading involves, unfortunately, both of those.
Yeah, people not liking to be wrong is definitely true.
Right.
Not
So
like, yeah, no. Weren't there all those like I mean this is sort of a tangent, but all those uh psychological studies that showed that people were more averse to losing money than they are to like making money. Like they if the outcome was like losing 50 cents versus like making a dollar, people would much prefer to avoid losing the 50 cents.
I think
A reaction to that.
I think that's true. And it's also, but I think even more so I don't know. I think there's like the pain of like missing out too. That I don't know what he said. I'm not sure if he said that superseded like losing a little bit, but like the idea of like really missing out. Um, and that's another thing that he was saying like
Yeah,
traders do a lot is
yeah.
when they feel like they're gonna miss out, they fudge their setup like in the beginning. Like not all the indicators are getting hit, but they're like so scared of missing out. They're like, okay, well, only this one indicator is not getting hit. I'm gonna go into the trade anyway. Well, then like, okay, well, like all your indicators weren't hit, so you don't have you don't know if you have an edge or not. Um, so that's kind of, I mean, I would wonder like, I mean, he talks about like how you like keep track, but how I wonder, I mean, he gave the number 20, but I feel like you need more than 20. Like, if you wanted to like change course, because I mean, he brings up the idea of just like flipping like a coin, like over and over again, and like a lot of people would like in trading terms, like you'd get upset, like if you bet tails and it came up head, even though most people are expecting that it's random. But if you just did a coin flip, most people don't really get upset, but they do tend to get upset when they're trading. Um, but where was I going with that? Um, but if basically you need to accept that there's an unexpected outcome, but at some point, if let's say like nine heads came up straight in a row, I mean, I remember that example Nicholas Taleb gave in I don't know if it was Fooled by Randomness or Black
Black
Swan,
Swan.
but
Black Swan.
he's like
Yeah.
you need to like just at that point like you might want to like check to make sure you're not getting screwed over by a loaded coin. And I wonder um how they
That
go
was
about
99.
yeah, how they go about checking to see if their edge still exists. And I mean, I guess over time you would see that you're not making money anymore, so then your edge is gone. But I'm just curious. Like I still have like I've done a good bit of back testing actually, and I still haven't really found a like a setup where there's an edge so far. But I mean I don't spend a ton of time on it, but definitely think it's interesting to look through.
Okay,
Did,
can you explain what you mean by back testing?
so back testing is where you just like go back in time and look to see like okay, like if you're thinking of doing this strategy, how would this have performed? Like I want to risk one to win three in this scenario when these things are hit. Like, and how many winners do I have versus how many losers? And like if you're risking one to win three, you really only need to be right a quarter of the time to break even. So if you're right, if you get winners in more than 25% of the times, well then you do have an edge. Um, and then you just need to kind of exploit that. Um, but yeah, that's yeah, when they say back testing, that's really what they you're like going back in time, um, and like checking a certain strategy and seeing how it does over time.
Yeah. And then I guess so one of the so when you're always talking about in the same type of trade, or it's like the same setup. Like you're always, I mean, example of like soybeans. So if you're looking at developing an edge, it's always, I guess, in some situation with soybeans, if that's what you're looking at. And then you extract soybeans in the future.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Normally people would do it on like one like foreign exchange currency pair or one stock or one index, um, or one commodity. Yeah, I think most people tend to do it on just one. I mean, like you wouldn't like look at, you know, Tesla stock charts and then try to apply those same indicators to a totally different stock or any stock for that matter, probably. Um, yeah, I would say
But
it's
you could
nor
look at the market as a whole.
you could, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you can look at indexes or yeah, really anything. Um, for sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Do you feel like you think like this in your pickleball playing?
I exclusively think in probabilities.
So like walk us through like what you're thinking or like how you think about it.
And I obviously know my own strengths, but I look to just play the smartest shot every ball. Uh, and I know if I play, know, the best, like the best shots, I'm going to win because usually I'm more consistent. Obviously, at some point you need to take risks, but it's really about risk management. So a good example I often use is when you're trying to put the ball away, a lot of people, it's hard, it's very because it's a wiffle ball and you can't hit it that hard. So you can't really just like through your opponent. Like if they're at the baseline, you're at the kitchen. If you're just like hitting hard shots when they're good, like they're gonna keep getting the ball back. You can't a tennis ball, you could hit an overhead and you can sky it over the fence. You can't do that with a pickleball. So you need to essentially hit like multiple shots to kind of move them around to open up space. And what I see is a lot of people, I feel, when they get in aggressive positions, they will overhit a real lot. So people get nervous, and then you get a couple like balls back, you get nervous, you then try and hit harder. And a lot of times you then overhit, you either miss it wide, long, or into the net. So, I always just when I'm trying to put the ball away, I'm just trying to move them around at like, 60 to 70% pace to open up space to then put it into space where they can't get it. Uh, that's, I guess, one example. When I'm playing, you have so many different options of like what shots you can hit, but usually the best shot is just hitting. uh, it's about waiting for. I think I used to when I would watch soccer, I used to always get frustrated that people wouldn't shoot enough. And I always remember thinking it's like you guys are giving up good shots in the hopes of getting, I guess, a great shot. And uh, I feel like I understand that in pickleball a lot more, and that I'm willing to just hit a lot of new balls before I can get the exact shot that I want. The shot that I know I can hit, greater than 95% of the time that will either give me a winner or generate something that I can then easily put away instead of forcing something that, maybe I can hit it 60% of the time, maybe I can hit it 50% of the time. But there's a high likelihood that it's not going to get the desired outcome that I want. So a lot of times I will wait for, I guess, a great shot instead of just forcing a good one.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't know. Does that make sense?
I think so. So like, so maybe if you, how do you take like the recency bias, like when you hit, maybe you're hitting the shots you think are you should be hitting and they're not working. Like if the next shot comes up, like the same setup, like do you think you do the thing you normally would do on like that the first try, or are you normally trying to switch it?
So usually the more common scenario is that you can get away with hitting something until you can't. So usually what happens is something will work and then people will adjust. So, so if I hit something, 2 or 3 times and it works, uh, or probably more than that. If I hit something, just for number's sake, 4 times and it works every time, and then on the fifth time, they counter it and it doesn't work. On the sixth time, I'm still probably hitting that same shot. And if at that point they counter it, then I'm probably looking to switch to something else. Uh, does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, once
So
it
so so
seems
that's that
like
so that's
once
basically
it's
like you think you're admitting you have an edge in the beginning and then your edge is gone essentially.
right, because like once someone sees or how I set up to hit certain balls, you can start timing it and reading it, and then once you know it's coming, like yeah, you plan for it. I'm the same way. Usually in the beginning, if you're playing someone you don't know, they usually have crafty things they do that confuses you in the beginning. And then you do it once, okay, you do it twice, sure. Do it 3 times. The person at that level is probably ready for it. So then, you have to switch.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, playing, uh, I was just playing some rec games on Saturday, and this guy has a very similar, he has a very similar game to this guy that I was out of town. And this guy I was playing with has a very similar game to someone I played. And he more or less had the same tell for when he was going to hit a certain shot. And he kept hitting it. And I just kept stuffing it back at him. And after he sort of said to me, it was like, how could you tell I was going to do that? Like no one else I play can ever read that I was going. I mean, what he was doing was he was from an out wide position, he was trying to slip the ball between me and my partner up the middle. And I was just then essentially sitting on it with my forehand and just back at his feet. And he goes, how could you tell I was going to do that? He said, like, you play very similar to someone I play with here. Your stroke mechanics are the same. I don't exactly know what it was, but I recognized you were going to hit that shot every single time. And every single time I was just sitting there waiting for it. And I was just stuffing it back at you. And the problem is he kept doing it. Like at a certain point, you need to sort of like after you're going to do it and do something else.
Mhm.
So sort of like know, he was used. And I think this is the problem probably I would guess in trading a lot of people have is you're used to something working. And then when it doesn't work, you don't know how to, I guess, pivot uh, for the lack of a better word,
Right.
right? Like
Mhm.
the probably the hard thing people have is if you feel like you always have that edge and then it no longer is working, I feel like that probably breaks a lot of people psychologically.
Mhm. So another thing I wanted to touch upon was beliefs. He goes a lot through how your beliefs alter your emotions, and he goes through an example where a boy sees a dog for the first time and has a negative interaction, and then all of a sudden the boy's belief is all dogs are bad or all dogs are nasty. And then the next time, a fluffy, playful dog comes around, he's kind of scared of it and doesn't want anything to do with the dog. So from that initial interaction, he forms a belief, and that belief, I guess, changes his actions. And then a cool part about the book is he's explaining how you break down beliefs into something different. I mean, another example he brought up is like he used to believe, there was a Santa Claus, and he used to believe there was a tooth fairy. So how do you go from believing something and then to transfer that energy into believing something different that contradicts the original belief? So like when you were reading these, did you think of any beliefs that you've had in the past that now you don't believe?
Uh, Beliefs that I had in the past. No, I didn't. I didn't actually. Did you? Sounds like you did.
I mean, there were some like um like some people say, I used to think like all, debt was bad um to a certain extent, and now I would say I don't really believe that, saving money is necessarily good. And as people have seen with inflation, that's not necessarily true. Trying to think of other ones. Going the traditional route for college is the only way. Those were some of the beliefs I would say I I did have before. Trying to think of others. Yeah, those I guess were the ones I'm thinking of right now. Yeah, I just thought I like that this book like was really not technical, and I think that's his point, is that trading doesn't really, it's a lot of just managing your emotions and being disciplined.
Well,
And basically, you want to systematize everything. You just want to not have to think. Um, but
wasn't
that
that
but
the
but that involves breaking down your beliefs that are holding you back from gaining what you're looking for. And like there was a guy I talked with recently. He was consulting with some woman who, they believe, money is the root of all evil. Like, so like deep down, like they thought if they made too much money or had too much money, they would be bad. So they basically had this or like subconscious motive to spend the money as soon as it came in. So like this woman was making a lot of money, but there was never money left because like it was ingrained in her that, money is the root of all evil. But that's not even what the Bible says. Um, and it's just, yeah, it's like, how do you go about breaking down like those types of beliefs that are holding you back? I really, yeah. I mean, that was I mean, I'm probably going to read this book over again at some point, but I really thought he really went step by step in how you break down a belief. And a lot of
uh,
these beliefs are probably holding a lot of people back from either making a lot of money or um, trying to think of another example. I mean, he gave a great example of the guy standing on the street on Michigan Avenue that said like free money
free money?
today.
Yeah,
And like only I think one person asked him for like 25 cents for some
bus fare.
nonsense, yeah, bus
Yeah,
fare. But like so he was like going through like, so why did only one person ask the guy, you know, to take him up on his offer? And he was kind of breaking down that, well, most people are probably believing that money cannot be free, and
Or
that
that he's
it
crazy.
yeah, and that if he is saying it's free, then there's something wrong with him, or we don't we shouldn't go by him. So let's like cross the street and like avoid him altogether. Um, so like, I mean that was pretty interesting. I've never. I wonder if that's on YouTube actually. Now that I'm saying it, because I would be curious to see what that looked like. Um, but that was kind of it. That was that was an interesting one, I thought.
Yeah, I mean that's actually a good point. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I feel like I've experienced this talking about house hacking a lot. When you were talking about like uh, changing people's minds, essentially I talk about that a lot to like my peers, and I say like how financially beneficial it's been for me, and no one's done it.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've had that experience, but like everyone I say it to, no one will do it.
Well, so like yeah, so like I'm sure one of their beliefs is probably like, real estate's too risky or that is too risky. Like is that what you would think? Like is that kind of the
Uh,
feeling you're
it's
getting
too
from them?
it's too risky. I don't have enough money. People say I can't do that.
Oh, I don't have enough money. That's a great one because a lot of people always talk about that when people bring up ideas for opportunities on investments. And a lot, like virtually every time, the money is not the issue. Like it's not that you don't have enough money, it's that you don't know how to like orchestrate the deal. Um,
Right? Yeah.
so that's another like belief that I'm sure is like taking holding people back like tremendously. It's not that you don't have enough money.
I mean, a lot of times I just go like, do you have, because I mean, a house, you can get a house for just 3.5%, 3% down. Like, you can go get a little starter house still, and at least where I live for, 150 to 200. I would say most, 20, late 20, early 30-year-olds should be able to come up probably with 10 grand. She wouldn't need more than that. No one wants to ever do it.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, when he was talking about like the transfer of energy in like your brain, he was sort of losing me a little bit. And like how memories are stored and all that type of stuff. Sort of was dovetailing into the section you just brought up on the beliefs.
Mhm.
Uh, I was like, I was not expecting this.
Well, I think he was kind of saying that the energy so like there is like mental energy that's going into those memories and your like beliefs and that if you experience something the belief is somehow there so the only way it's not really that you're like like you can't go from thinking one thing now to like totally just thinking the complete opposite and like having no recollection of you believing the thing before. He's saying it's more of like a I guess a yeah, transfer of energy from like okay, like now I think that Santa Claus exists just like very very small amount and then I have this other thought that's taken over most of the energy that okay, Santa Claus doesn't exist. And it's yeah, that's kind of how I viewed it. I mean, he was kind of trying to weave in like Einstein and all this you know there's no like an elimination of energy it's a like only like a transfer um but that's kind of how I viewed it and I mean Kiyosaki actually brings up he always talks about like you need to be able to keep like different ideas in your head at once and that kind of would align with like what Mark Douglas is saying that like you're kind of seeing like both sides and like you can kind of keep both beliefs in your head but like you're I guess internally like weighting those beliefs to like which one do you like have more conviction in versus the other. Um, I guess but yeah, it was he was definitely getting a little abstract, but um, yeah, that's kind of how I viewed that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good way to view it.
So, okay.
Do you have any other remaining thoughts, Jack?
Um, I don't think so. I mean, I guess the whole gist of the book, I would say, is you just have to accept risk and you need to stop trying to avoid it. Um, and you need to accept that any given, roll of the dice or flip of the coin or bet of, sports game or there is an uncertain outcome for that one scenario or one entry, I guess. And yeah, I enjoyed this book a lot. And I think anyone interested in psychology or just trying to understand why you believe what you do should absolutely read this.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that.
So, do you have any closing thoughts?
I think yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, just you have to be prepared for the unexpected.
Yep,
Anything can happen. I
yep,
think that
exactly.
was one of my main takeaways. Anything can happen.
Yep. You just gotta be cool. You gotta, yeah, just let the market do its thing. It's not being negative or positive. You just gotta take the information as it comes. So Allie Bear, what are we reading next time?
We will be having a special guest. Let me make sure I'm getting his book title right. But we will be having Jared McCod on to discuss his young adult novel called Bright Star.
Awesome.
Uh, yeah, it should be fun.
Should it
All right,
be?
I guess with that said, Jack, do you want to take us out or do you want me to?
Sure. With that said, please reach out to us at brothersonbooks@gmail.com for any book recommendations, or if you'd like to be a guest host for a particular book you have in mind. A great review or rating on whichever platform you're listening to this would be greatly appreciated. And lastly, if you can think of any friend, family member, or coworker that might like this episode, please pass it along. For the original episodes, the OGs, please visit brothersonbooks.com. I'm Jack Allweil, and with me, as always, is my brother Alex Allweil. Al, until next time.
Till next time, Jack.